film, he wouldn't be stepping on his or anyone else's cherished memories.
Okay, if I was going to do this, how would I do it? Really said, well, the reason that first movie worked so well is because the idea behind it is awesome, but it's really because those people in that cast, those four guys, and then the amazing people around them, were at the top of their game that time. And thought, if I could work with the funny women that I know, then and showcase them through this great idea, then that gives me energy. And so that's when I said, okay, let's do it.
When Feig was announced as the new director, so were his plans to reboot the series with a female ghost-busting team. He recruited Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon, and Leslie Jones as the new Busters. Flew through an easy production, and fans wholeheartedly gave the film a chance. Oh wait, we live in the cursed timeline.
Ain't no bitches gonna hunt no ghosts.
Oh, no, okay.
Backtrack to the vile Gamergate controversy of 2014, the online anti-feminist harassment campaign that targeted women in the video game industry with threats of violence, rape, and death. The unregulated internet has always housed forums of extremist echo chambers, but Gamergate was the first of its size to galvanize racists, misogynists, and the like into a single crusade, thanks in large part to the Pied Piper of trolls, Milo Yiannopoulos. A tech journalist for the news website Breitbart, Yiannopoulos weaponized followers of Gamergate to reject all forms of feminism, social justice, and political correctness by means of threatening critics, doxing individuals, victim blaming, and outright hate speech. Come 2015, Gamergate was inseparable from the alt-right movement, and it was easy to turn that anger towards politics and the fake news media. Intertwined in this mess was also the rise of fan entitlement, the belief that filmmakers must appease fans' own preferences or even demands if Hollywood continued to cash in on their nostalgia. Fans feel ownership over these properties, so who would know better than them? And if not satiated, some of these individuals would be extremely vocal and hostile, aka toxic fandom. After years of hearing Aykroyd sell them a Ghostbusters they'd never see, Feig's reboot wasn't in their headcanon. Toxic fans and Gamergate believers united against a common enemy. Following the announcement, Feig and his cast were immediately harassed on social media, calling out their appearances, questioning if women can be funny, claiming this wasn't what true fans wanted, and blaming them personally for ruining their favorite movie, with much harsher language. The soon-to-be troll-in-chief also joined in.
And now they're making Ghostbusters with only women. What's going on?
As a confused Feig said, he was just making a comedy about ghosts. Why were they so angry? His cast were very popular on Saturday Night Live, and Feig himself had a lot of nerd cred. As the creator of Freaks and Geeks, a director on multiple fan-favorite TV shows, a 20-time Comic-Con attendee, and his co-writer, Kate Dippold, wrote the most relatable exchange in all of television.
Why would anybody ever eat anything besides breakfast food?
People are idiots, Leslie.
By stepping into the world of Ghostbusters, Feig apparently made a declaration for a culture war. Where was this level of vitriol for other remade classics? Like The Karate Kid, Point Break, RoboCop, Ninja Turtles, The Thing, Total Recall, Man of Steel, 2 different Spider-Mans, 3 different Batmans, all of Disney's live-action remakes, and every horror franchise ever?
We're feeling a lot of outrage right now, because we want something and we know we deserve it, but we're not getting it.
I'm mad, but I don't know at what anymore.
Let's ignore the frequent accusations of studios making cash grabs for now. They're called franchises for a reason, folks. The difference obviously came down to chromosomes. Feig has made it his life goal to show that women in film can have as much fun as the men, especially with his recent string of hits, Bridesmaids, The Heat, and Spy. As such, the reboot was seen as a progressive gimmick that social justice warriors were out to erase their childhoods, and like Gamergate before it, a fear of white male disenfranchisement.
We are sick and tired of this feminized society. Men have had a very rough go of it for just recently, and it ends now.
After months of non-stop sexist abuse and death threats, Feig, drunk on wine, tried talking sense to the trolls before giving up and signing off with an understandable, go f*** yourself. But as Reitman warned Feig, acknowledging them only validated them.
The true Ghostbusters fans who dress up, do the cosplay and all that, they're the most wonderful, welcoming people. They're so generous. They've been just nothing but supportive. all this other stuff around it exploded, which I tried to ignore. And then very stupidly, probably the biggest mistake I made in my career, I actually, played into it, went after some of the guys who were just being so terrible to my cast. And then, once you do that, you're the bad guy.
As this went on, a leak suggested that Sony was making a different, more action-oriented Ghostbusters film, this time courting Channing Tatum to star and produce and the Russo brothers to direct, which was entirely news to Paul Feig and his team. This was considered a knee-jerk reaction by Sony, hoping to placate the angry mob with a male-friendly film. In reality, Sony always wanted to make several films at once. After Ramis died, Reitman and Aykroyd, with Murray's permission, removed their required approval. Instead, they established the production company Ghost Corps, allowing Sony to freely build Ghostbusters into an MCU-like franchise. They hired Iron Man 3's Drew Pearce to write out a franchise Bible of where the films could go. One of those was something the Russo brothers gravitated towards. But once they signed on to the two-parter Avengers Infinity War, the project was dead in the water before the leak had yet surfaced. But the damage was done. People were pushed further into their corners. Then the first trailer for Feig's Ghostbusters hit in March of 2016. Production did go well, by the way. Some were underwhelmed, many were confused by the title card suggesting it was a sequel, and others were furious, making the video the most downvoted film trailer in YouTube history. Afterwards, famous YouTube reviewer James Rolfe posted a video detailing his refusal to see the movie, spouting that same fan entitlement, and some irrational critiques based on the 2-minute preview of a 2-hour movie.
By using the name, it's pretending to be original in its own right and sweeping the first one under the rug as if it didn't happen. To me, personally, it officially ended with the death of Harold Ramis. Well, at least he didn't live to see this shit.
Rolfe's video exploded, reaching over 4 million views, with plenty calling him out for judging a book by its cover. Made all the more ironic when Rolfe complained about his critics having not actually watched the movie, or his video. Nonetheless, the video was a lightning rod that sparked a wave of anti-2016 Ghostbusters sentiment on YouTube that still continues today. And the further down the algorithm you are, the scarier it gets. Toxic fandom turned mainstream. Plus, while one side feared the fall of the patriarchy, others were mad that the only black woman in the cast wasn't also a scientist. Paul Feig couldn't win. Leading up to the release, the hole only got deeper and darker. Sony partnered with the NBA for promotions, but the total lack of any cast members in the ads felt like another bullet Sony was trying to dodge. China would not screen the film at all due to their rule that movies can't promote cults or superstition, a major hit for its international box office. Worried about cataloging issues and TV listings, Sony also renamed the film Ghostbusters Answer the Call sometime after debuting the trailer. It too came off as Sony attempting to satisfy fans, whether true or not. And what is now par for the course, trolls review bombed the movie on Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, and Metacritic, weeks before anyone would have actually been able to see it. The last straw was the worst. During opening weekend, Yiannopoulos aimed all his bigotry and complete lack of decorum toward Leslie Jones. His explicitly repulsive tweets were a dog whistle for his acolytes to follow suit, convincing them that she somehow deserved this treatment. In a matter of hours, Jones received thousands of racist and sexist messages filled with threats of extreme violence and death.
What's scary about the whole thing is that the insults didn't hurt me. Unfortunately, I'm used to the insults. That's unfortunate. But what scared me was the injustice of a gang of people jumping against you for such a sick cause.
Yeah.
They just like everybody has an opinion and it all comes at you at one time. And they really believe in what they believe in.
Yeah.
And it's so mean. Like, it's so gross and mean and unnecessary. And to let people know freedom of speech, because I know a lot of people came at me with that. Hate speech and freedom of speech, two different things.
Two different things.
Twitter banned Yiannopoulos permanently. In retaliation, trolls hacked Jones's iCloud account, leaking personal photos, information, and passwords. Again, because she starred in a comedy about ghosts. Yiannopoulos and the alt-right eventually moved on, setting their sights on the U.S. election. Ghostbusters Answer the Call busted into theaters July 15th, 2016. Much to the chagrin of trolls, the likable cast, fun special effects, and solid story earned the movie decent reviews, which in turn was proof of a conspiracy. But after all that bitching and moaning, the film's ultimate crime is that it was fine. Just another mildly amusing studio comedy. A fate that could have easily happened no matter the gender of the actors. The constant controversy around the movie may have damaged its box office potential. Nevertheless, it trapped a healthy $230 million worldwide. However, it was clear by August the movie wouldn't reach its break-even point of $300 million. Sony put all their ghosts in that one containment unit, and it underperformed. Any future film plans were put on hold. Though he liked the film, Aykroyd threw Feig under the bus for the failure, claiming he didn't listen to his or Sony's advice.
Paul Feig made a good movie, and there's some great things in it, and the girls are great in it. I was mad at him because he cost too much. And I don't want to slag a fellow artist, but had it cost a little less, and had he maybe listened to some of our suggestions on budget, then there might have been another girls' movie that would have been great.
2.5 years later, Sony made a surprise announcement. Another Ghostbusters film, this time to be directed by that little punk from the second one.
Jason,
Well, some people have trouble believing in the paranormal.
No, he just says you guys are full of crap and that's why you went out of business.
Jason Reitman, Ivan's own son, spent the last 15 years as a writer-director before approaching his father's legacy.
Obviously, I'd been asked my whole life, would I ever make a Ghostbusters movie? It came to me through this girl, I imagined this 12-year-old girl standing in a field with a proton pack, and it was only later that I realized that this was Egon Spengler's granddaughter.
A new film taking place in the original universe was exciting news for all Ghostbusters fans. Nonetheless, many saw this as Sony's attempt to reconcile with the most irate of the fan base by ignoring the reboot. Did Sony succumb to the bullying, validating the notion that the previous film failed because of the women? Much like the Snyder Cut, is Ghostbusters Afterlife, despite how good it may be, a win for toxic trolls, fan entitlement, and harassment tactics. And that is the unintended consequence of these trolls. Your hatred, love, or indifference on any film is viewed as a politically motivated choice. There is no gray. You're picking a side. You may have legitimate criticisms with The Last Jedi, Captain Marvel, the DCEU, or the Ghostbusters reboot, but those discussions will always be corrupted by bad faith arguments, where the discourse is marred by your beliefs on misogyny, racism, wokeness, gatekeeping, PC culture, diversity, inclusion, journalistic integrity, critics versus fans, rather than the quality of the films themselves. Are we unable to have reasonable disagreements on pieces of art without tripping the landmines set by these trolls? This is the everything is political landscape we now reside in. Leave it to trolls to ruin everything. Or, to put it another way,
People are idiots, Leslie.
Yet for all those who thought Afterlife was born out of the contempt of progressivism, they couldn't be further from the truth. It's because of Paul Feig that it exists. Answer the Call paved the way for Afterlife. Jason Reitman wasn't out to take back the franchise. He was there to prove all the trolls wrong.
To express gratitude to you for kicking down the door on what a Ghostbuster and who a Ghostbuster can be. You were the first one through the door, and you were the person who was going to allow it so that I can make this movie and many other people can make Ghostbusters movies about people of every race, every gender, for people around the world. There are all kinds of Ghostbusters movies that I want to see. Thank you for making that possible.